Okay, I'm sorry, but this is finally the part 2, including the very dark ending. So please stick around to the end to hear like the spooky part. Okay, so where I left you guys off, John, his dad, and I were like walking the property to figure out what exactly happened or what went on. And we started at the big metal barn. So this guy managed to like slip his grubby little mitt in between like the large metal barn door, and he reached in and unlatched it from the inside. Now they've lived in this house for like 150 years and no one's ever done that, but this guy somehow figured it out. So he unlatches it and he slips in there and he goes straight to the corner where there's this like wash basin, and he turns the bad boy on, and straight out of like Home Alone 1 with the wet bandits, this guy just floods the entire barn. And honestly, that was his undoing, because if he hadn't done that, I would have had no idea he was there. If the whole property wasn't completely flooded, I just would have showed up, gone in the backyard, turned on the sprinklers, done my thing and left. But luckily he did that, I guess. So anyways, we keep checking the barn. He had gone into a couple other things, but honestly, he didn't destroy anything or wreck it. He just kind of like checked the place out. So from there, we left. We kind of walked everywhere else to see if there was any other water on, and there were a couple spots. I don't know why the guy watered the entire property, but it was kind of his thing. If he saw a knob, that guy turned that knob all over the property. He turned on every knob he could possibly find. He even tried to do my job. He tried to water the lawn that I was there to water, but he couldn't figure it out because it's kind of tricky. Anyways, after we were all done walking the property, we then went to like the final event, which was the house. This guy that broke in didn't make a mess of anything, which was very cool of him. But he did make himself at home. Okay, this guy took out of the freezer a whole rack of ribs and decided to eat those, which, funny enough, was actually out on the grill that was outside. And that would have been one of the details when I first showed up, to be like, is that like a whole rack of ribs on the grill? But for whatever reason, I just didn't notice it. The guy helped himself to absolutely every beverage inside the fridge, so much so that he took it upon himself to actually load the fridge back up with more sodas. And like 4 dozen sodas went into this fridge. He was planning for a very long stay. The guy then partook in some adult recreation in the living room. He had a couple drinks with him. He cooked like 7 meals. Here's where it starts getting a little goofy. He also ate the dog food. We assume he ate the dog food. It was open and with a fork in it. He also turned the AC down to 52 degrees. He made himself at home. Weirdly enough, he slept in the guest bedroom. So he didn't feel like he was welcomed into the main room, but he slept in the guest bedroom. TV was on. This guy was really just staying in it like it was his Airbnb that he rented. And luckily he didn't ruin too much. There were dirty dishes kind of everywhere, but nothing was broken. Nothing was messed up intentionally or unintentionally. So it's kind of the best of all scenarios, except for this last detail that I'm going to share with you. So my friend and his family, they are hunters. So they have the equipment needed to be hunters. Luckily, they are incredibly responsible owners of said equipment, and it is all locked in a safe and with them at their cabin, right? So none of that was around, except for there was a pellet machine, right, that was in one of the closets. There were no pellets around, and this thing was so old, it was more of an antique than anything. So that pellet machine was in one of the bedrooms, resting on the bed and the window. So it's to be assumed that he was probably laying on the bed, looking out the window with that in his hands. And just beyond that window was what I was explaining in part one, the washroom where I was really spending most of my time trying to turn the water off, trying to figure everything out. So it's not certain, but it's definitely to be assumed that he was in there with his, with that potentially sitting there looking at me. Now, we know that nothing bad would have happened. It was just a pellet, one of those. But had it not been, and had it, been any crazier, or when the police did tackle him to the ground, if he had brought in even that pellet one out there with him, it could have been a much crazier ending. So that's the super dark ending. It's really eerie. And I'm actually going to head over there right now because they still need someone to water their lawn. And if I'm not going to do it, we can't get that guy to do it anymore. So, all right. Thanks, guys, for checking out part 2.